Aurelie Marcotte. I am the Vice President of Sales and Business Development for Entanglement Technologies. We're based out of the Bay Area in California. It's a great technology to use because it combines the benefits of using a cavity ring down spectroscopy technique, which is very robust for monitoring small molecules in air, and combining that with chromatography and pre-concentration so that we're able to detect larger compounds such as benzene at very low detection limits in the part per trillion detection range. So we can do this quite robustly from vehicles or from long-term unattended stationary applications for air monitoring. This is a really important topic, not only in the US, but also internationally. So as we're learning more about these different air toxics, such as ethylene oxide, we're learning about their health impacts and how much they can impact us from a long-term exposure as well as a short-term exposure. And so I think that we're identifying new compounds, especially volatiles, and their impact. We're just learning more about them. So I think that from a regulatory perspective, we're going to see more regulations coming out about these compounds, and especially being able to detect them at lower concentrations, feel confident about the measurements that you're actually making. Community air monitoring, we're seeing communities want to take their air monitoring into their own hands so that they have the data. So in working in collaboration with the regulatory agencies, they can also see directly what that raw data is and what that could mean for their communities. This has a lot to do with, measuring the compounds, especially these air toxics outside of fence lines. So as they're going into the communities, and really understanding if you live somewhere for 70 years, what's that impact on you over the course of your lifetime? So even if you're exposed to very small amounts, that can add up over time. In the States, we're seeing a large amount of funding going towards community air quality monitoring. So through several different grant programs, through the Environmental Protection Agency, as well as other organizations. For a regulatory perspective, we'll see additional funding for international regulatory agencies, as well as potentially community monitoring being strengthened in those areas as well. Our technique, so the AROMA analyzer, which is the thermal desorption cavity ring down spectroscopy analyzer, has been applied for mobile monitoring. And the great thing about mobile monitoring and being able to put an analyzer in a vehicle and get off and running without having a build out is that you can respond to these emergencies, such as industrial accidents, if there's a fire at a refinery, for example, or if there's a hurricane and you have power outages or flooding that take out stationary regulatory monitors. So we've been able to, by being able to quickly deploy these analyzers in vehicles, we can, drive them around and be able to detect if there's any need for shelter-in-place orders, for example, for if there's harmful air toxics in the air. As we are having higher water scarcity and the need for potentially reusing our water from industrial waste sources, you're going to have different kinds of chemicals that are entering into your water source for treatment and then distribution to the public. And so there could be a lot of industrial chemicals that are in there, and volatiles kind of fall into this area. Now, a lot of analyzers that monitor total organic carbon, which is kind of the standard right now for monitoring of industrial chemicals. If you have an exceedance, for example, they're not able to detect the volatiles. And some of those volatiles are quite hazardous. And so I'll be talking about, not only being able to detect those volatile species, and quantify them, but to speciate them at very low levels so that we know exactly what the chemical is and how much of it is there in the water source, so you can make a decision for your potable water reuse application. As mentioned, this is a thermal desorption cavity ring down spectroscopy analyzer that can be used in the field for long-term unattended stationary air monitoring or water monitoring applications for volatile organic compounds, or can be put in a vehicle, driven around for emergency response applications or community monitoring.